I'd like to call the February meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Paula, would you call the roll?
Alan Brown.
Present.
Jennifer Bourne. Heather Clemmer.
Present.
Neela Crank-Clements.
Present.
Greg Eddington.
Present.
George Massey.
Present.
Mary Jo Meacham.
Present.
Jeffrey Parks. And Zach Ritz. You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to go over the procedures on the back of the agenda real quick. The chairman will announce each case and ask any party having interest in the case to indicate their presence by raising their hand. Commissioners will then discuss the details of the case, calling on staff to provide details of the proposals. Following this discussion, commissioners may choose to ask questions of the applicant, the staff, and any other interested party. Interested persons may speak to support or protest the application. The applicant will be entitled to one brief rebuttal. Interaction between applicants and protestants on the floor is not permitted. Persons speaking are asked to approach the center podium one at a time to introduce themselves by name and address, if you would sign in, please, and to present their position as succinctly as possible. The Commission asks each speaker to limit his or her remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Following the public hearing on an application, the Commission will take one of the following actions. Number 1, approve the certificate of appropriateness. 2, continue the proposal. 3, deny the proposal with prejudice, which means the application may not be resubmitted for at least 1 year unless the Commission determines that circumstances have changed. And 4, deny the proposal without prejudice, which means the applicant may reapply at any time. When an application has been approved and after a 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the CA to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until the CA has been issued. And then finally, any person aggrieved by any decision granting or denying a CA may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustments. All appeals should be made within 10 days of the Commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the BOA. Okay, with that, let's get started. 2 from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer.
Just a quick note that we will be mentioning now through the May meeting is that the June 2016 meeting of the HP Commission will be held on May 25th. This is a break from our regular meeting schedule to accommodate Commission members and staff attending the statewide Historic Preservation Conference. So if you're planning on submitting something in the coming months, be sure to check the schedule for meetings and for application deadlines. And then just a reminder that the statewide Historic Preservation Conference is coming up June 1st through 3rd, 2016. And that is in Enid, Oklahoma this year.
Okay, thank you, Katie. On to item 3, acceptance of the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes? Are there any corrections?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Neela Crank-Clements, seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. On to Code Enforcement Report, item 4. Greg, are you here?
Good afternoon. Any questions, comments?
I have one question for you. I had a person ask me about the property at 1545 Northwest 36th. Are you aware of that? It's in Putnam. Apparently there's a hole in the roof.
1545. 36th Street or Terrace?
1545 Northwest 36th Street.
Street. No, I don't think I have anything working right there. I have one on 36th Terrace. It's a white house on the north side of the street that's in pretty bad disrepair. We wrote them several citations.
Okay, well, we'll look into it.
Okay.
Is that the new home?
Do you know any
Alan?
particulars
No.
of the complaint?
Excuse me?
Any of the particulars? Did they change something, remodel? Were they doing some work?
Very poor maintenance, for repair, a huge gaping hole in the side of the house.
I think they left off TER when they talked to you. I think it's on Terrace, and I wrote him tickets.
Okay, all right, thank
It's
you.
in it's a pretty complicated mess. He inherited the house. Mother's deceased, so
Okay.
we had to find legal ways. His records are on the water records. So we've got him now tied to the property, so we're writing him tickets.
Okay.
So, been writing them for years.
Also, there's apparently a swimming pool that's dangerous, collecting stagnant water that's in the backyard open. So,
Okay. We'll look into it.
thank you.
Greg, are there any updates on the home at 300 block of 22nd Street, big white one? Looks like work has started.
310,
That's probably right.
we reposted it again for property maintenance and wrote tickets. I think it's been about 2 or 3 months since I reposted it. And that's another one that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
Well, originally we started, we had a stop work order while he was supposed to be given 1 year to do some repairs. He did absolutely nothing. So I started writing tickets again. We dilapidated the garage because it was in bad shape. And he since went into a nursing home, but the property was still in his name. And now it has been sold. I know it's under somebody else's name. I can't tell you right off who it is without looking it up. But we've had a new owner re-notified, and then tickets will be going to that individual. Nothing's been done. When it was under the ownership of the bank in between, I think they came out and put a blue tarp over the
Yeah, the
holes in the
roof.
ceiling. And now you just got shattered blue stuffs blowing in the wind. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's one of those that, we could take to the dilapidated case anytime, but with no set owner, you know what the outcome's going to be. So hopefully we're just working it this way until we have to work it the other way.
Any other comments?
Save a hole in the street if we can.
Staff wanted to let the commission know that today is Greg's very last day with the city and here with us, and just thank him very much for his service and his dedication to what this commission does. So,
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate you.
We will miss you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Greg. On to item 5, continuance, announcements and requests.
no requests and no dilapidated structures.
Okay. Moving on ahead to then National Register nomination.
We have one National Register nomination for Tiffany House Apartments at 5505 North Brookline. This is one that has been initiated by the property owner in anticipation of using state and federal tax credits. Tiffany House Apartments was built in 1965 to 1966 and is nominated to the National Register under Criterion A, properties associated with events that have made a significant contribution to broad patterns of our history. Under the area of community planning and development, it is one of several high-rise apartment buildings that were built at this time in Oklahoma City as part of kind of suburban automobile-oriented expansion, provided modern all-in-one kind of amenities within the building for property owners, from a beauty parlor to a restaurant, swimming pool, and of course central heat and air. The nomination documents various elements of the interior that are still, and the exterior that are still intact, although the building's been vacant for some time. But they are hoping to rehabilitate it and have it restored and reoccupied again. Linda Ozan from State Historic Preservation Office is here if anyone has any questions.
Hello?
Hey, Linda Ozan with the State Historic Preservation Office. Any questions you have? I should let you know, it has been approved. The Part 1 for the tax credit application has been approved, so the Park Service has already reviewed this documentation initially.
So are there plans to do a full renovation, or?
Property owner's here, and he can tell you that.
I was kind of curious.
My name is Glenn Ferguson, and I'm the property owner of the house. And you had a question, sir?
I was just wondering what you're planning on doing. It's an interesting building. Been many times?
Yeah, we've been trying for several years to kind of put the funding in place to do a complete renovation of the building. And our total, basically, it's a top-to-bottom renovation of the entire structure. It's about a $27 million project cost, all included. So it's very significant, but for the state credits that would be available, it would be very difficult to renovate a building of this age, which is one of the reasons why it's been challenging and taken some time to get to this point.
Great.
So it definitely need to be a for-lease property after the tax credits, right?
That's correct, yes. It will.
That's, how long is that? 5 years? 5 years.
We don't have any plans to turn the building into any kind of condominium type project. It's going to be designed to be a mixed-use project with for rent, just as it was in 1966.
Is it vacant now?
Yes, it's been vacant for about 2 years.
Okay. And how long do you expect the renovation to take?
The renovation will take 14 months start to finish.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking that on.
Not a problem.
That'd be cool. Thank you. More questions or a motion?
I recommend the nomination of Tiffany House to the Mayor and City Council, the Oklahoma Historic Preservation Review Committee, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and the Keeper of the National Register, and adopt the resolution provided as part of the staff report.
Second.
Moved by Neil Crank Clements, a second. Excuse me. Something in my throat. Sorry. Seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Recommendation is recommended. Not approved. Recommended.
1 month off before you have to see me again.
Thank you. All right, on to the consent docket. And we don't have a vice chair here, so George, would you like to take over? I need to abstain from the consent docket. Good experience.
I actually have a question for you. You're not leaving, are you? I mean, since the first one's yours, I actually have it.
Oh, he has it.
Okay.
Well, so Alan was going to just abstain for the consent docket, but if we have questions about his application, then we should just pull that item and you can speak as the applicant.
Yeah. Just briefly.
We could approve the other two items of the consent docket with
I
Alan.
have an issue about another one, too. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Do you want all three of them discussed
Well,
separately?
The first two are going to have to be, so that only leaves one.
Okay. Well, but we still need to do number 3 as a consent docket item, right? If there is no one else. Yeah, we can do number 3 and get that one out of the way. If people don't have questions on that one.
I move to approve HPCA 16-00002.
Second.
know.
You're still running.
Okay.
So the motion was on item 3 on the consent docket.
So that's item 002. Moved by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 3 is approved. I don't have my microphone on. So what's next?
Okay, item 3 was approved, 204 Northwest 20th. So if you're here representing that property, you are approved and you're free to go. So now we'll go back to 15-189.
Item 1.
Item 1.
Okay, I'm abstaining, and George will take over.
Greg, you had some comments or questions?
I'll wait till he gets
After
back,
he
although
gets
this may be
to
fast.
the front.
My question is just in looking at the rule about this, is there a reason why you're not doing the addition on the back instead of the front of the garage?
Well, there's a huge tree,
Okay.
number 1. It's about that big. I think it's as old as the house. It's got
Fair enough.
4 feet, so that's it.
That's all I needed to know.
That was easy. Anything else?
No.
Any other comments or feedback?
I move to approve HPCA 15-00189.
Second.
We have a motion by Neela Grant Clements and second by Greg Eddington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm supposed to vote, am I? Can I vote? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and we wanted to pull number 2 as well, HPCA 15-00202 at 1535 Classen Drive, Heritage Hills, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of red feedback by Catherine Montgomery of Preservation and Design Studio for certificate of appropriateness to 6 construct pergola elective.
Right, and that one I actually don't have questions. I just have sort of a speech, and I can go ahead and go into it if you want.
You want to ask a question?
I don't have a question. I just have something to say. Discussion is what I have.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. This was here last time also, and the standard, which is one of those that says shall not, it's not a permissible one, shall not exceed 8 feet above the finished floor height or 9 total. Just looking at the 9, it says here that the floor height is 2.5, so 9 would give us 11.5, and this is 14.5. So it does not meet the standard, which brings us to special circumstances. And the one that we talked about last time was the one about making it meet, be the same level as the one-story part or the addition or whatever. I'm not finding the right word, but something that's out of the bottom story of the 2-story house. And my comment on that last time, which is the same as this time, is that that's not a unique circumstance by definition, because it would apply to a lot of 2-story houses and every 1-story house. So that leaves us with the second thing, which I think is asked as a special circumstance, which is that there are corner brackets that make it go down even farther. But my comment on that is that that's not a unique circumstance anyway, because it's a function of choosing this particular pergola. Because I have seen a lot of pergolas, and I also looked online today, and there are a lot you can have without something, a bracket that comes down that low. And so not only that, but you've got, like I say, 11.5 is where it comes out to maximum under this standard. 14.5 is 3 feet taller, and it's almost 30% off what's approvable, and so I can't vote for this.
I also looked at that very carefully. I'm kind of where Greg is, too. I still don't understand the height. It just seems like it's so different than what is in the guidelines.
Okay. You must be the applicant.
I'm the consultant for the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
The applicant's in the back of the room because the baby's asleep in the stroller. I'm not really sure if there's a question in there, except that there are certain statements relating to the ability for the design to actually meet the standards and guidelines. The staff report on pages 2 and 3 has printed out all of the standards and guidelines that apply to pergolas. And of course, the staff report points out that I think basically that the design meets all of the recommendations and requirements for pergolas, except for some concern with 2.5.24. So I think that's the crux of the matter, as voiced here this afternoon. And of the two things that are specifically mentioned in 2.5.24, one has to do with the height before the structure, meaning the height from the floor to which the pergola relates up to the bottom of the structure, and the other has to do with the overall height from the floor to which the pergola relates. And the first requirement, which is 8 feet, is noted as a not permissive, what's the other one? Directive language. And then the 9-foot one is actually permissive language. So, and again, all of these items appear under staff approvable items. So, of course, if staff feels that there's something in there that doesn't allow them to be able to approve it, then they bring it to the commission, which is what has occurred. As to the design, I mean, the design is what you see. The document that is the last page of your packet was the document in question at the last meeting, which had been, in fact, turned in on time, but was not contained in the packet, so that we had to come back today. Once we got back to the studio after the last meeting, we immediately re-forwarded the emails that we had sent previously, and you see that document before you today. So basically, I think, you know, we talk about, there's no real definition in there for what constitutes structure. One could interpret structure to be anything that has to do with the thing that holds the pergola together, which includes the bracket. The use of the bracket helps to reduce the span, the structural span of the girders, so that we can use a smaller girder. So technically, one could say that the structural depth begins at 7'2" above the back stoop, which is within the 8 feet. You know, yes, there's lots of different pergolas out there. This one happens to be long enough that to have a column-free space, which is what we desire, because that would give less touch points at the ground. We need extra depth for the structure. So, you know, I consider the bracket to be part of the structure, and if that were the case, then it's possible that staff could have approved this, because it would have met the directive language of being within 8 feet. However, if you don't consider the girder to be part, or the bracket to be part of the structure, then you're left with a depth, a height of about 9'9" from the floor to which the pergola relates to the underside of the structure. So the special circumstance would be simply, in this case, for this particular project, that that, you know, we require the additional height in order to make the structure work. Yes, we could lower it probably about 6 or 7 inches and not have any interference with the possible brackets. But my experience is that when you design things so tightly, there's always got to be a place where things can give. So, you know, we're just being out there and saying, you know, we'd like this distance so that we can be sure that the pergola will not have any interference with the door. And that's where it's at. If you choose to approve this, then we would be very happy and be able to institute this design. As staff has adequately pointed out, it's going to be almost completely not visible from the street. You're going to have to put your head around the corner in order to see it. And if you wish not to approve this design, then we will have to redesign it and see if we can bring the height down. In any event, we're probably still going to be over the 9 foot, which is the permissive language, and we will do our best to try and bring it in around 8 feet to the underside of the structure.
I've got a couple of questions, some for you, also for staff. So it says 8 feet. The bottom of the canopy shall not exceed 8 feet above the finished floor. Not structure, but the canopy, which to me would be the horizontal part. And the other one is the overall height shall not exceed 9 feet. It doesn't say from where. Is it the finished floor or is it from the ground? Do you know?
We've
Or do you have a...
noted that in reviewing this, and staff feels that the intent of that was to be from the same point as the other
So the
language from the
bottom of
finished floor
canopy,
height.
the top of the canopy.
8 feet from finished floor height, 9 feet from finished floor height.
Foot
Yeah.
canopy.
So it's
Okay.
the floor height is of the first floor, not the ground, correct?
Right.
No.
Because we have pergolas going, as with this one, you have pergolas going in locations where there are changes. It's not just sitting at grade in the backyard. There are grade changes, or if you're coming out a back door, that sort of thing.
It's finished floor height of the structure to which it relates. So whatever is right inside would be the... Okay, just want to clarify those numbers. So it's the brackets that... It looks to me, Catherine, architecturally, that you were relating the height of the canopy to the height of the trying to find the elevation.
The height of the one-story eaves.
Yeah.
I think that's a happy accident. That's not so much
Right there.
a real design intent.
Was
We were
not?
just
Okay.
trying to make it as tight as we could and still feel comfortable that it was achievable.
So Catherine, are you adding the 8 feet to the height of the stoop?
That's correct.
So that gives you 10.7 plus? I mean, I'm looking on here.
That gives you, well, there are actually steps underneath the pergola. There's some stepping underneath the pergola. But that's true that if you go to the height of where the patio slab is, the pergola is the distance is being measured from the first floor, which is elevated about 2.5 feet from the patio slab.
And so are you adding the 8 feet to the bottom of the bracket? I think if you would just explain that, I think we would all be...
Okay, so if you start at the top of the stoop, which relates to the first floor of the building, and is the distance, this is the critical spot that we need to clear. So the height of the door is about 6'8", and then we were proposing 6 inches above that, so that's 7'2", before we have the springing point of the structure, which is indeed the bracket. The bracket's about 2.5 feet deep at a 45-degree angle. And in the context of the total development, I don't think these are things that are really visually obtrusive.
First, I think the portion looks okay. I'm just trying to get around the requirements. Is there anything else besides the calling it a pergola? I mean, it's not freestanding. It's not freestanding in the middle of the yard. To me, it's more of a porch roof or cover or something. I just wondered.
I mean, the guidelines, if I may, the guidelines do say that if the pergola is physically attached to the building, that it should be considered an addition, and other requirements would come into play. We've deliberately not designed it to be attached to the building, just because we don't choose to invade the building with this proposed construction.
Understand.
I will note that the guidelines for pergolas and for other landscape elements only include sections for administrative approval, and that was done to give staff the ability to approve more things that are not attached to the historic structure itself, that are located in backyards that are minimally visible, but to still set parameters for staff to review. In my interpretation, that does not mean that things that don't qualify for staff review cannot be approved by the commission if they are otherwise appropriate in their design, in their compatibility, in their visibility. There's other language in the guidelines that talks about what's appropriate and what's compatible that I think the commission can exercise some discretion on in considering this. So I know that when we have black and white limitations on things like heights and sizes, that's difficult. But I do think the fact that those are under administrative approval and not under commission review may be worth considering.
And I'll just say, because we've talked about this, but I mean, the way I read all of these rules is that the shall nots are standards that that you need unique circumstances if you're not going to go by them. And so looking at the unique circumstances, I don't see that there are any. And I guess the only other thing I would add, and then I'm done, is that it also, the unique circumstances talks about complying with the spirit and intent of the guidelines. And my understanding of this, at least what I thought when I read it, and consistent with my, looking at my own neighborhood, is that the idea is that a pergola is supposed to be kind of a benign, minor thing, not a 14.5-foot tall thing in the backyard. So that's all.
Anybody else?
I think the proportion to the home is excellent for this structure myself. It seems to fit very well, again, by the house, for whatever that means.
I hear
So-
Greg's concerns. I think we do have to consider the language permissible, whatever we've decided this is. However, I do think that the proportions are in line with the existing structure. Pergolas are not, I don't see them as a permanent thing. And the fact that you really can't see it from the right-of-way, it's in the back of the house, so I'm inclined to approve this.
Do you think, like Greg said, that it needs a unique circumstance, since the language is shall not? In those cases, we typically go with a unique circumstance, which is not provided in the staff report. I mean, we have specific findings, but not a unique circumstance.
Catherine, 14.6, that's what it is. That's set by the clearance of the bracket above the back door?
I mean, the main reason we included the dimension of 14'6" is because we wanted to know what the overall height of a post was going to be from grade level to the very top.
Right.
Well, the post doesn't go to the very top, but we know that you guys like, dimensions. So, so we put those in there. I think the real place to consider it is from the top of the stoop, which is where you come out the door.
Yeah.
And which is our critical point. So if you were to remove 2'11", which is basically 3 feet, then the pergola is, from that touch point, is 11'6".
I just wonder if it could be lowered a little bit. I don't know if it'd make much difference, but
I mean, it's-
Which we're willing to do. We're willing to lower it. I mean, if 6 inches makes a difference to the commission, then, we can work within that. Maybe we can, maybe we have a little fudge factor. It's actually 2 feet 7 1/4 to the bottom of the bracket. So if we needed to lower it 6 inches, it makes it really tight. But then, if that's acceptable, then we can do that.
That's what what I was getting at was, would we accept it if it was a deck? If the stoop was a deck and we considered that the bottom, then is the remaining number acceptable? Because I think that's kind of where they're at. They have to use that stoop. The top of the stoop is the bottom of the pergola to some degree, because you're coming out.
I
from
mean,
that
if we're
point.
concerned about the height, is 6 inches really,
yeah.
is that really visually discernible? I don't know that that would make much of a difference. I don't think.
It would meet the height requirement.
So, we'd still be at 12, but
I think, as has been touched on, one of the other factors is that relationship to the back stoop, that a lot of times we see pergolas that are set away from the house and that are in the yard at grade, and you're not coming straight out a back door underneath the roof of the pergola. And I think that's how the guidelines for administrative approval of pergolas were kind of written, thinking of a freestanding thing that people put out in the backyard. So just trying to
8 feet clear.
think if that would help with a circumstance of some kind that the location of this pergola close to the back wall of the house, at the back door to the house, warrants the additional height.
I mean, could the unique circumstance be like Katie suggested, that it's next to the house and that the exit from the rear door, I mean, if the door wasn't there, you wouldn't have the need to raise it, correct?
That's correct.
So could that be a unique circumstance?
To me, it could.
Well,
I would make a motion to approve that with, just a second. I would make a motion to approve HPCA 15-00202 with the findings from the staff report and the unique circumstance that the pergola, in this case, is located next to the house and aligns with a rear exit that warrants the additional height due to the brackets, the structural brackets.
Second.
moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by Neela Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Been approved.
Thank you.
On to, took longer than we thought. On to individual consideration.
Item 1 for HPCA 15-00090 has been withdrawn,
Okay.
so we don't need to take any action on that. And just for your information, and this was, I believe, discussed at a previous meeting with the applicant, all of the items that they initially applied for ended up kind of coming under that ordinary maintenance and repair threshold. They've been able to make those repairs, so that's why that's withdrawn.
Okay.
Number 2, HPCA 15-00129 at 225 Northwest 24th Street, Jefferson Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Falcon Realty LLC by Adam Rayan for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install TPO at primary structure and overlap parapet edge required. Staff heard from this applicant that they were not going to be able to attend the meeting today. I don't know if we have any other representatives present, but they are out of continuances at this point.
And nothing has changed since we saw this?
Correct. We
last
don't have
time.
any new information.
Okay.
I remember what we talked about the last time. Investigate other methods where they were
Yes.
going to. Yeah. But
Well, if nothing's changed, I would move to deny with prejudice HPCA 15-00129, items 1 to replace roofs on primary structure.
Second.
moved by Neela Clements and seconded by Heather Clemmer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That item is denied with prejudice. Next item.
HPCA 15-00156 at 421 West Eubank Street, Edgemere Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Michelle Edstrom for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install front shutters required, and 4, replace 2 upstairs windows, elective.
Hello?
Although I believe, is the windows required? Okay.
Okay. You're Michelle?
Yes.
Welcome. Any questions? Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Michelle, have you seen the conditions that staff recommended in the staff report?
Yes, I have read the staff report.
The condition that the shutters are the same design and size would be approved but be constructed of wood and installed?
Well, and my question about the shutters is this. What occurred here was I replaced the shutters with some wood shutters that were the wrong style, so then I received a notice So then I called Officer Woods. He said, well, you got to file a certificate of appropriateness. Okay. So I filed the certificate of appropriateness. After I spoke with somebody in that office, I think Ms. Yetter, but it may have been somebody else at that time, I was told that that style was not going to work. I was like, okay, so I pulled those back down, put the other ones back up, with the exception of 2 that were damaged. So the shutters that are in the picture on the house now are the shutters that were on the house when I purchased the house in 2007. So at this time, I'm just asking that I'm allowed to leave it as is, as it was when I purchased the house in 2007, because I don't have the money to go back in and replace with custom colonial shutters right now.
So the shutters that are on there now, the original shutters that you had pulled off, replaced with plastic shutters?
They were plastic when I purchased it. They're the same 2007 plastic
wood ones,
shutters,
not
correct.
Okay.
I mean, I read that, it seems like that should be allowed. I mean, if you took off something and then it was reported, and then you put it back on, and there was really no difference or damage, I don't really see how it makes any difference. What's the issue?
Well, we typically require that, the guidelines state that when you remove non-historic fabric beyond a certain percentage point, then you have to go back with something that does meet the guidelines. Now, obviously, if someone takes off a storm door and paints their front door and puts the storm door back on the next weekend, you know, there are thresholds there on the timing. Staff's understanding is that several years lapsed between when the shutters were initially removed, wood shutters were put on, wood shutters came back off, and plastic went back up.
That is incorrect. I received notice after I took the plastic shutters down and put the inappropriate wood shutters up. I received notice within a matter of weeks. It was soon thereafter that I filed after talking with Officer Woods, finding out what needed to happen, that I filed the certificate of appropriateness. It was, soon thereafter, I would say within 30 days, I don't have the exact timeline, that I was told that that particular style was not going to work. So then I arranged to have those taken down and the plastic ones put back up. So it wasn't a matter of years, it was a matter of months at most.
Months, okay.
At most.
So kind of a matter of not knowing the requirement.
Correct.
I mean, I can understand in some cases where, maybe it goofed up something, but it seems like with these, I mean, it's just, you took them down.
Yep.
We told you put up the wrong thing. You put that back up. It was there. To me, I don't see how we can make somebody do something different if they have that. They put it back up. That's my opinion on this one. It's an
And it's my
unusual
understanding
one.
that they're appropriate except for the material.
Right.
They're the same ones that were there when I purchased the house in 2007.
Anyway, that's my thought.
Any other comments?
I think what is that threshold? She said they were down for a month or 2 months or 3 months. Well, what if they're down for 6 months? What if they're down for 9 months? What if they're down for 15 months? So my concern is with that. Where do we draw the line? And with the guidelines as they are, not approving that material, I wouldn't be able to approve these plastic shutters.
It's just a matter of, I don't know, matter of a few months. You have to go through the CA process. I mean, that takes, we know it takes months. I don't think, how long was it, 3 months, you said?
It was just, it wasn't very long at all.
There was no, in other words, there was no delay or trying to evade, somehow. But so I kind of feel also that it was fairly timely, and you went back with what you thought was, original to that when you bought the house. As soon as you found out.
Right. I mean, to me, it's like a door. If we saved the door and then we came back, even I don't care. If somebody turns you in 2 years later and you still had that historic door, or even the non-historic door, we have another one that's kind of like this. It just seems like that if you have that door, if you've saved the door, that you should be allowed to put it back up. Now, if you took down siding or those kind of things, I mean, I don't think you should be allowed to put maybe back the vinyl siding if you had a pile of it in your garage. See, that would be different. But a shutter just seems like...
So, anyhow, somebody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve HPCA 15-00156. I guess we're just talking about the shutters. I haven't looked at
Item 1.
Item 1, Let's see. Item 1 with no condition. Would that be correct?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by George Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
How many nays? 2 nays.
And there was 3 of us. No, 1, 2. Do I get to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4. 3, 4.
So 4 to 2, and that was just on the first item.
Item 1.
Well, the chairman didn't get to vote except for a break a tie or
You can
something.
vote anytime you want to vote.
All right, item 2. 4, excuse me. See upstairs windows.
Has the window already been installed also?
No,
No.
no.
Is the,
It's right there. Those 2 windows right there.
is the window that's submitted,
That's an original window that I'm trying to match.
is the window that's
Those
been
2.
submitted, Katie, is it approvable?
Yes, so there's windows that were installed without a CA, and the applicant has submitted new specifications for a different window that does meet the guidelines.
Correct.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve HPCA 1500156, item 4.
Second.
Moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by Neela Crank Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item 4 is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
HPCA 15-00170 at 201 Northwest 31st Street, Edgemere Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Tyler Chastain for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace front door and jamb, elective.
Applicant present? Not present?
Katie, haven't we reviewed this before?
Yes, I think the commission has seen this before, and have we gotten anything new from the applicant since we, no, so there's been no new information since you saw it last.
Was it continued? Seems like it's been quite a while since we talked about it. 2?
It was perhaps continued for 2 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No new information?
Do we want to continue it again? I mean, does it sound like the applicant is going
So we
to
can
try to
continue one more.
provide?
Yes, they can have one more continuance.
Okay.
Okay, and we will continue it to what date?
April?
Yeah, could do the April 6th meeting.
Okay, I move to continue HPCA 15-00170, item 1, to replace front door to the April, what'd you say, 6th?
6th,
Okay,
yes.
April 6th meeting.
Second.
Moved by Neela Crank Clements and seconded by Greg Eddington. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, been continued. And the next item, moving along.
HPCA 15-00179 at 808 Northwest 19th Street, Vesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Terry and Robin Storch for certificate of appropriateness to 4, revise approved garage, elective. This applicant initially proposed a larger garage and was approved for a garage meeting the 450 square feet requirement. They've come back asking to revise that to 480 square feet and have submitted some additional information about visibility of the proposed garage and size of surrounding garages in their area.
Okay, applicant?
Good afternoon.
Okay. Hey, Terry?
Any questions about the proposal?
I have a question of Katie. Was the staff report completed after we had our meeting last week?
The staff report was prior to the workshop that we recently had where we did discuss garage proposals, size of garages.
Could you tell us, based on the discussion at that meeting, would this staff report at all change your recommendation?
I don't think that it really would, although and I did actually print off, because I realized as I was looking through the packet today, some of these, the aerial images of the site plan were not as legible as I'd thought. One of the things that we discussed in the workshop was
There's two of them over here.
was the level of visibility and alignment of setbacks of a new garage with surrounding historic garages. The proposed garage appears to be no farther forward than the forwardmost garages along the block and no farther back than the farthest most back along the block, and is within the range of sizes of surrounding garages. I think that was the only issue that we discussed in the workshop that we hadn't highlighted as much in the staff report.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Are some of these garages accessed by the alley? I've never been on this alley.
Yes, this one is proposed to be accessed by the alley, and I think others along there are as well.
So,
I tried to put documentation to help give a visual of where our garage will be, which is tucked between two other historic garages that are actually larger than what we're proposing. So it does not actually have any visibility from any major roads, which would be Chartel or 19th Street. And what you might see ahead of you is that the garage that was originally proposed was larger than this, and so we took that in consideration to reduce the size for this proposal. And the primary reason of that is my wife's vehicle and her accessibility of getting into the garage is really the ultimate consideration that I'm trying to look for the family, of making that accessible. And so.
Very timely after our meeting last week.
Mr. Storch, is that right?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
So we did have a workshop last week to discuss garage sizes, because we've had a number of applicants, not as many as we'd initially thought, but we have had a number of applicants who have requested have their garage larger than what the guidelines provide. So we don't consider car size so much. You might have a Honda Accord, as we saw in the mock-up, or you might have an Expedition. That's a lifestyle choice. But we do understand there are modern reasons for wanting to have a larger garage. You want to store your lawn equipment in it. In any case, we did I think, fall on the fact that we want to make sure that the garage is not any farther forward or any farther back than surrounding garages. And it looks like yours is in line with those. So I would move approval.
Okay. Second?
I'll second if that was your...
Okay, that's my motion. I move to approve HPCA 15-00179.
Second.
Second. Moved by Neela Craig Clements and second by Greg Eddington. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Thank you very much.
First garage with after the workshop. All right, next.
HPCA 15-00185 at 2213 North Chartel, Mesda Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Josh Grellner for certificate of appropriateness to 3, replace front door, elective, and it says required in your agenda. It's actually an elective item. And 6, install fence on south side, elective.
Applicant present?
Looks like staff has recommended a continuance for a number of reasons. Has the applicant contacted staff to provide any?
No, we haven't had any response to the staff report.
And this is their first continuance?
Yes.
Okay. And when would we like to continue it to? April 6th or later?
I think
They're not
April
here.
6th is the latest we can do. If the commission has any input on, I know the applicant is trying to achieve a door with less glass in it. So if the commission has any input on
What, you said a world with less glass in it?
a door with less glass in it. Maybe I said world, I don't know. They want the world.
I mean, if it's a historic door, which it appeared to be in the photographs, it seems like that we would want to approve something similar.
I agree.
So that's our comment. Is that motion?
I move to continue HPCA 15-00185 to the April 6th meeting.
They have two items on. The second item is the fence. Do we want to continue?
I agree with staff's recommendation, or not, your recommendation to continue based on
Okay.
how far forward it is.
Okay.
The fact that they could put a portion of fencing that you would be able to see through. So I agree with that.
Okay.
I move to continue both items, 3 and 6.
Second.
Moved by Neil Crank Cleveland, seconded by Greg Ennington. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that item continued. Also, next.
HPCA 15-00188 at 825 Northwest 15th Street. Both of those items, they were discussed by the commission previously, and with the direction that the applicant come in with administratively approvable proposals, and they did that between the time when the agenda went out and this meeting. So those items have both been administratively approved at this time. They'll be reported on your agenda in March, but the commission doesn't need to take any action on that today. Rita, any technical instruction on?
Just to strike the item as unnecessary. And follow with
No
what
action.
she said is the reason.
No action. All right, onward.
HPCA 15-00206 at 915 Northwest 38th Street, Crown Heights, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of David, Lisa, and Michael Williams for certificate of appropriateness to 1, demolish garage, elective, and 2, construct garage in kind, elective. And staff just wanted to note that while we have findings, recommended findings in the staff report for the demolition, we do not have a recommended motion. The findings kind of got combined. So if and when the commission chooses to make a motion on the demolition, we need to be sure and do 2 separate motions for that item.
And the first finding, though, under 1 applies to demolition. Is that correct?
Yes. So that's I think the finding from the
Could use that.
demolition considerations. Yep.
Okay. Applicant present? 2 out of 3. All right. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Katie, did you say that we needed a separate motion for the demolition?
Yes. So we have, and actually you can cheat and look at the next staff report because that one does have a motion for demolition. If you look at 15-208, there's language there. And then findings that are recommended as part of this staff report.
So can we approve that by reference to a different item? Or we have to read it?
Well, you would read it, I think.
Excuse me, Katie, the recommendations at the end of the staff report actually do include the findings for demolition, I believe. It simply did not include item number 1 in the list to approve items.
Right.
But typically when we do demolition of a historic structure, we have a separate motion that says that it will have an adverse effect on the historic character, but that was my catch.
Which is in the
So that
second,
it will.
next case, yeah.
Right.
There's a section we could read. So,
Okay, so are you saying that we make, I would move to make a motion to approve item 1, HPCA 15-00206, the demolition of the historic garage with the specific finding that the proposed work would have an adverse effect on the historic character of the district, but is necessary because of the threat to public health and safety, with the specific findings that the garage is deteriorated to such an extent that it is physically impractical to rehabilitate without the loss of all or nearly all fabric contributing to its historic integrity.
good job.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Neela Craig Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 1 is approved. And on to the garage.
I think, based on what I looked at, unless staff recommended approval, so I would recommend to approve HPCA 15-00206, item 2, with the specific findings noted by staff and the condition that the height of the overall structure as measured from the existing grade will not exceed 14 feet 6 inches, allowing for an exposed stem wall to place the siding above the existing grade.
Can we approve it with the condition, not knowing whether the applicant will accept that condition?
Is the applicant, have you talked with the applicant about that requirement?
I have not.
Is the height of the garage shown on the drawings?
Yes.
And it is not 14.6, it's higher than that?
It says 14 on the drawing.
The applicant has indicated that there will be a stem wall, an exposed stem
I
wall,
see.
not to exceed 6 inches.
So that would work out.
So it should work out. Yes.
Okay, so it has an 8, 14, and...
So that condition is perhaps just kind of a clarification.
Clarification.
And if they come back and say, that's an issue, we can't do it that way, we'll bring it back to, either address it at a staff level or bring it back to the commission.
So the documentation we have from the applicant is sufficient enough that we don't need anything extra in order to meet that condition?
Correct.
Okay. Then I second Joe's motion.
Okay, I didn't hear that motion, but it's been moved by Joe Meacham, second by Neela Craig Clements. Did you make a motion, Joe?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry.
I did. With the condition, I read that, and then will not exceed 14.6. Allowing for... On the drawing, it appears... Angela, are you saying that the stem wall is included in the 14.6? You don't think so, but we're allowing... That they must include the stem wall as part of the 14.6. Okay, well, the condition is that the commission would just like to clarify that the total height, including the stem wall, will be 14.6 or less.
Accept that?
I accept that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's been approved. And
HPCA 15-00208 at 2316 Northwest 25th Street, Shepherd, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application of Matthew Boer for certificate of appropriateness to 1, demolish garage elective, 2, construct garage elective, and 3, install gate elective.
is the applicant present? Had to be one of you. There's 2 left. So, had to be one of you because there's 2 left. So, how are you?
Good.
Mr. Boer?
I think the deterioration
Would you sign
of the
in?
garage is evidenced by the photographs. Absolutely.
You can save that. Okay.
Is the garage going to be the same size?
It's going to be, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right now, it's about 18 feet 3 inches by 18.3, and the proposal is 20 by 20.
Well, I make a motion to approve HPCA 15-00208, item 1, as stated by this in the staff report with the specific findings.
Second? Second. Okay, it's moved by Joe Meacham, second by George Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 1 is approved. And on to 2.
I think we talked also in our garage workshop last week about preference and the historic character of 2 garage doors, separate garage doors versus 1 garage door. So we have a situation here where even though he's going just a tiny bit larger, it's still under the limit in the guidelines. So in this situation, and because of the location of the garage, I think the single door is perfectly appropriate in this case.
I make a motion to approve HPCA 1500208, item 2, to construct the garage. Do we want to do the gate separate?
I think you could combine those items for approval if we don't have, we don't have conditions or unique circumstances for either.
Items 2 and 3, to construct a garage and install a driveway gate, as according to the staff report with the specific findings.
Second.
Okay, moved by Joe Meacham, seconded by Neela Frank Clements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Last.
HPCA 16-00003 at 631 Northwest 16th Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application of Ralph and Susan McCoy for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install dormer on back of house required.
Okay, applicant present? Thanks for waiting.
Process of elimination. Good afternoon.
Look around the room. All right, are you Ralph?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff has recommended continue. Looking for more information. Questions?
There's also
Go ahead. Oh.
Information from the neighborhood. They seem split on that. Conflicting opinions.
I think this is one of those unfortunate situations where the work has already been done. And based on what I'm reading in the guidelines, that it is a corner lot, it is a prominent location, it is visible from the street. I think that is what I have trouble with. And, that's my comment. I think the size seems a bit awkward.
Mr. McCoy, could you tell us what your understanding of the HP guidelines were when you purchased your home?
Virtually nil. So I have to apologize for that. We bought the house. It's a lovely house. It's had a number of modifications throughout the years as we got into it and found a little further about the house. So if you look at the back on the picture you see there, there's been an enclosure. Part of that introduced some roof issues. That's where we kind of got into this. The front, or the side porch, which is the southeast section of the house, has been enclosed. They did a decent job, but very rough on the infrastructure within the ceiling. The issue we had, and we bought this, it's our daughter is renting it. This is how she occupies. We're longtime residents of Oklahoma City, more on the northeast side. But the bathroom upstairs, it's a story and a half. The bathroom upstairs cut through, had not a whole lot of room to get in and out. So there was a bathtub, but no place for a shower. And For the type, and again, this is just my opinion and what went into this, and I travel quite a bit. A lot of this was done with me being over the phone and not really taking the time to research and having to make some kind of on-the-spot decisions. So I've learned an awful lot since, but the bathroom, to accommodate the type as the values increase in that part of this area, and the type of people who will be seeking to occupy and live in those homes, really to continue to increase in value and provide the type of residence I think that will attract those people. It needs a shower in that part of the house. And that's kind of the background for the why.
You know, it's an ongoing effort of the commission to help in assisting the neighborhoods and clients and realtors, real estate agents with the process, you know, and making sure that buyers and sellers are aware of the HP guidelines. And it sounds like there was no realtor assistance to assist you in letting you know that you were moving into an HP area that would require guidelines for any change to the exterior of the home.
I'm sure there may have been in the packet. I don't know.
There's a lot in your packets, a lot, aren't there? I understand.
And like I said, I travel. I'm on the road quite a bit, so a lot of what I do is done remote.
The dormer on the front of this house is absolutely perfect for this style home to me, and I think the one on the back, I understand what you're doing on the inside, but if it had no regard to the bathroom, and I understand what you're trying to accomplish on the inside, I think visually it just is not acceptable to the guidelines as to what we do for homes, in my opinion, for this style house. It's a big change. Katie, if we were to continue this, what other information would we be able to gather?
Staff's recommendation for continuance was just based on the fact that we didn't feel like we could recommend approval at this time, but that wanted to give the commission the option to consider if changes to the design, changes to some of the materials that were used that we typically don't approve, if any of those factors would make it something that the commission would approve if the applicant was willing to make some of those changes.
I mean, would it be acceptable to people on to other commissioners if the siding was changed and the eaves were designed to match the front dormer? Or is it?
Well, then we still have the issue that it's on a corner lot, it's highly visible. I know that the neighborhood representatives had mentioned something about it's only visible part of the year because of foliage. Well, I don't think it's going to cover.
I mean, we have approved dormers, new dormers on side lots. We've had 2 in the last year that we've looked at.
We have, but we can't look at those as precedent. We have to look at.
No, but we approved new ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very visible, yeah.
Yeah, I would, it's my input, and that was asked, I would be open to making those changes, if that would be acceptable.
Yeah, I think if you could change the roof line to more match the front dormer.
The roof line.
As far as the width, are you saying the width?
The roof
line. The fenestration, the roof type, the fenestration, the materials. It doesn't match the house, I think, the design of it. It's not similar to anything else on the house, so it kind of sticks out. So
the overhang and the eave design is not like the front dormer or the main house. They're different, so. But that wouldn't be too hard to modify. The window, there's a shower inside.
It is. That's
right?
what
so it's a high window. Right. That's what I was told.
But I think we have to think, would we have approved this, that window type, before construction happened? So now, I mean, we're having to look at it as if this is not here. And that window type is also not on that house. And that's something we consider when approving new additions or new dormers.
There are some small windows. I don't know if they're on the side. Yeah. There's a round one, and there's some small rectangular.
Right, the two. We just had that fireplace.
And there's also the front dormer, which is probably the most relevant window designed to try to emulate.
I think if the dormer in the back was closer to the one in the front, it would have accomplished more of what you were really looking for as far as a spaciousness in that bathroom area. Right now, it looks, I don't want to say inappropriate, but it doesn't seem to match.
It seems too small.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem big enough to me.
The dormer itself?
Yeah, it's a second thought, afterthought
back.
kind of thing.
That may assist to some extent with differentiation between the historic fabric and the addition to the structure. You may want to consider how far you'd like the applicant to go in matching the historic fabric, because as the dormer currently exists, it is small. It could be removed and return the house to its original condition, because it's obviously an addition.
Obviously what?
An addition.
Right.
It's a goal, even though we have issues with that.
It's a common struggle.
It's a struggle. We don't want it to look like it was original, but we want it to look like it was original.
Which is why the guidelines say proportion. You know, it's not necessarily that it needs to meet the exact size, but we do need to know the proportions of the front dormer in relation to the proportions of the back dormer. We're just kind of gauging based on pictures at this point. We know the shape is different. So maybe it's not that it has to be the same size, but we're talking about proportionality.
I agree with that.
I think when they drew it up, the back one, because of the size, could not really support the same roof structure on that front piece that is different. So that may go back to the size of the, the size of it, if it needs to be increased to match the size of that one.
Do you think that having drawings of the first one would help in making the decision?
Dimensions?
The dimensions of the one on the front?
Probably good. That's the
And the window
obvious precedent.
design of the front also in the back? Because
Well,
it's a very modern window.
If we're talking about proportions, then it would seem like we would have to have the dimensions of the one in the front.
Right.
Windows, too.
Yes.
Right. All of it.
Would you be, would that be
But I
something
wouldn't
that-
be inclined to approve the window that's been installed because it is dissimilar from any other window in the house. Now you've got, maybe there's 4 different types of sizes, 5 different. Now this adds another one in. So, you can provide the proportions, but I don't, and I'm one commissioner, so I might be the only one thinking this way, but I don't feel that the size and shape of that window.
No, it's kind of back to all of the specific findings. It's not just the proportion, but it's also the window type, the siding that was used. I think all of the specific findings that are discussed in the staff report do play a factor in this.
To me, that horizontal window sticks out more than anything.
Yes.
Is there a circular window on the side of the house?
There is. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. This house has had, if you look at the different types of sidings and the composite material that is on the house, it's got some of the shingle, I'm sure, no doubt is asbestos. It's got the siding that you're looking at there that's on the front, on the side. It's just had multiple different iterations. It's a beautifully contained house, and it's a wonderful, lovely, well-maintained. It's very nice inside. But it has had multiple renditions over the years. I don't know how better to say it. So, you see the round kind of porthole, which is in a closet in the upstairs west bedroom. And then the normal kind of in the bedroom, and then that is leaded glass in the bathroom side.
Is there something the applicant can bring back next time?
I mean, we talk about dimensions of that front dormer, and I mean, I think that's helpful, but the materials are not appropriate, the siding's not appropriate, the window shape, I think, is not, detracts from this beautiful home, otherwise, it still is. The roof line, there's a number, I don't, other than redoing the dormer possibly, I don't see how we could approve it. I mean, I don't even know if we would approve this dormer, but.
You mean?
Bringing dimensions, choosing a different shaped window, maybe, different materials on the siding.
I mean, it's my recollection that the one we approved we approved it based on the fact that it was similar to the existing
Right, the one on Edgeburg Court.
dormer. So, I mean, if it was smaller but the same proportion with the same siding and a similar window, would we be, I mean, is that something he could bring back as a drawing, work with staff?
Proposed modifications?
I may be wrong, but I think that one you're talking about, I don't think it was visible either, and that's where I stopped, and I don't want to give my speech again about the must and everything, but I will before.
You're just saying that you feel like the visibility can't get past that?
Right.
So, work with staff on proposed modifications and come back with...
Sure. It sounds like there are a number of changes that the commission would like to see, so we can work with the applicant on what changes you'd be willing to make, what's doable as far as the roof line, that sort of thing. For a continuance, if we continue to the March meeting, we would need all of your new information by Tuesday of next week. Or we can continue to April 6th, and then that gives you more time.
I may need to do that, because I'll probably engage someone that, would the circular window, is that an acceptable, is that guidance that would be, is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know.
I mean, I think we might want to know what that circular window, is that historic or an original window? Or was that something that was added later? Like you're saying, there's been many iterations.
And honestly, I have absolutely no way of knowing. I don't know how I would find that out.
Unfortunately, the burden of proof lies on the applicant.
Well, I can give you I can look at the structure and tell you, based on, we've done a good number of construction, but I could not say it without some level of not knowing.
Okay, so, motion to continue?
I make a motion to continue HPCA 16-00003 to the April 6th meeting.
Second.
Moved by Joe Meacham and seconded by George Massey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's continued. Thank you. All right. Other business?
No other business. We have administrative approvals and a couple of withdrawals. No administrative closures. Reporting that our National Register nominations from last month, Sunshine Cleaners and Electric Transformer House, were both recommended by City Council to the State Historic Preservation Office and Keeper of the National Register, so those will move forward.
Okay, and nothing more adjustments, Planning Commission?
So the National Register nomination prior to that, we have been keeping SHPO here fairly frequently. The Lincoln Plaza Historic District was recommended by the State Historic Preservation Office at their quarterly meeting, so that will go on to the National Park Service for their review.
And what is that district? What are the boundaries of Lincoln Plaza?
It's only 4 buildings. It's just the 4 structures that are at Lincoln Plaza. So they call it a district when there's multiple structures, multiple properties. And I will note that we are seeing such a huge volume because these are mostly historic tax credit projects, and historic tax credits will be under consideration, at least for the state. So definitely,
watch out.
If you talk to people, tell them, your experiences with those. Feel free to share that.
Right. H, Ad Hoc Committee. Who's the chairman of that Ad Hoc Committee? Or is there a report?
I don't think we have one.
Okay.
No.
All right. Anything from municipal councilor?
No.
Okay. Next meeting date will be March 2nd, 2 p.m. right here. New applications were received yesterday. New information has to be in by next Tuesday, February 9th, for that meeting. The next regular scheduled workshop is March 9th, Wednesday, March 9th, 11:30, 1:30, 420 West Main, Suite 900. And then item 9, are there items from commissioners who'd like to discuss?
I have a question for Angela. Please come to the podium. Angela, we would all like to know how long you have been working at the city HP area.
I have been working with the city since 1996. I started working with the Historic Preservation Commission in 1999. I stepped back for a bit, approximately 2 years, to work with landscape review, design, citywide, and then came back to work with you guys again and have loved every minute of it.
Well, we're so happy to have you. I just wanted to tell you that, and, although, you haven't worked for us 50 years to qualify as a landmark, you have worked for quite a few years, so we would like to declare you a landmark today on your birthday.
Yes.
And we're going to sing happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Angela. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was just, when we were walking over, just saying the continuity that Angela gives us is really important, so appreciate that.
And see, we waited till you didn't have an audience.
Any citizens?
Do you know what's really nice about that? Y'all were all on camera and I wasn't.
Okay, no more business. We are adjourned. Thank you. Was there something else?